Good afternoon. Welcome to We Believe Digital Newsbreak Show here at the We Believe Digital Studios in downtown Jackson, Mississippi. We're so glad you're joining us. We're running just a little bit late this morning. Technical difficulties on my end, and got that corrected, and glad to be with you. So much going on right now to share with you, but as always, so happy you're joining us with We Believe Digital programming. Our subscriber count is beating expectations. We're up to about 930 subscribers now, and with a goal of 1,000. So we appreciate you watching us on YouTube and subscribing, liking the program, and sharing it with your friends. We'll start out on the local level with a story that comes to us from Michael Goldberg at the Clarion Ledger. He sat down with Ted Henifin. You know, here we are essentially a full year now after the water system was just brought to its knees here in Jackson. Here's what they had to say: that the water is flowing again to nearly all of Mississippi's capital city. It's a stark contrast from a year ago, when Jackson's 150,000 residents could never be sure what, if any, would flow from their taps when they needed a drink, shower, or to flush the toilet. The majority black city also faced occasional warnings that their water could be contaminated and needed to be boiled, and people had to wait in line to get fresh water. The turnaround has been shepherded by Ted Henifin. This is a third-party administrator, been working for decades up in southeastern Virginia, in charge of a much, much larger system up there. And now he's down here helping us. He was appointed last year as an interim head of the long-troubled water system. He's faced pushback from some residents over lingering water quality concerns, legal hurdles to his plan to ensure low-income people don't pay more for water, and has expanded his purview to include fixing the sewer system. Now, it's merged in with the interview with the Associated Press that he did, and Henifin said, quote, "The system is acting like what I would consider a normal water system for a city of 150,000. In the future, we shouldn't have citywide boil water notices," unquote. Day-to-day efforts have included fixing the valves and broken pipes from which gallons of wasted water once spilled into creeks and up through fire hydrants. Quote, "I spent a lot of time working with the confines of the law, and I think we've developed a proposal." This is where they start to talk about the cost. And the state law, the state recently passed a law that said that the water bill can be based only on consumption. There were some people that were trying to lock in property values and so forth, but it's about consumption only. And so he's trying to retool how that comes out in terms of dollars that will be in your water bill. We've talked to the state about it and make sure we don't run into a similar buzzsaw. He thinks other utilities across the country are going to look hard at the proposal as a new method of helping the lower socioeconomic demographic be able to afford water. So all that's just really good news. Things are moving ahead with that. It seemed like a positive report of 1 year from when we just had an absolute catastrophe in this capital city. The only other story on the local level I want to share with you is the sad story of the shooting on Sunday night of Jalen Burns, a Jackson State student. The shooting did not happen on campus. The arguments started apparently were on campus, but then moved off campus. One report indicates that he was in the apparently coming from a family member, indicates that he was in the process of trying to break up a fight or settle a dispute or something like that, and wound up being shot, and as it turned out, fatally. So he was an industrial technology major from Chicago, was transported to the hospital from campus after the shooting, University Point apartment complex. Burns was a member of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity and president of the C100 chapter at Jackson State University, an affiliate of the 100 Black Men of America. So very, very popular on campus, seemed like just a fine young man, and this happened after homecoming was already over, happened on Sunday, late Sunday night, and just sad, sad, sad. So the campus is back open again now. It was closed on Monday. We're just sad to have this thing going on here. And we certainly extend our condolences to his family and his friends, and hope that everybody gets back on track at the school. On the Mississippi state level, I just share with you that today is another day that no Republican has called for a hearing or held a hearing on the largest corruption scandal in Mississippi state history, where upwards of $100 million were stolen under a Republican administration and passing through the hands of Republican administration appointees. Of money that was earmarked for the absolute poorest people in the state. Federal government sending tens of millions of dollars every year to Mississippi as a safety net for the poorest people that we have here in our state. And these people with no shame, they couldn't care less about poor people. I always say, if you're black in Mississippi, you're screwed. If you're black and poor, you're double screwed. It's a horrible situation. No regard for poor people and what they're going through, and unwillingness to look at the policies and the decision making that contributes to keeping people poor. Never any thought process by this Republican-controlled legislature into creating economic engines that will lift all boats. They don't want all boats lifted. They want their own boats lifted. And it's a sad thing. I mean, I think it speaks to a deep psychological inferiority, the stigma in Mississippi for years. These folks just not the sharpest pencils in the box, and they want to make sure at least somebody is down below them, and it's sad. It's very sad. So another day passes, nothing at all. ABC News reports that Mississippi River water levels reached new record lows from Missouri to Arkansas, preventing shipments of grain and other important goods from making their way downriver during one of the busiest times of the year. This is according to data from the National Weather Service. This phenomenon is a repeat of what we had last year, when hundreds of barges sat idle along the Mississippi River because of shallow waters. So anybody knows that magical rain dance, now is the time. Back to this TANF scandal. The Mississippi Department of Human Services has accused retired NFL quarterback Brett Favre of stonewalling the civil litigation. Now, there have been no criminal charges against Favre, but he won't cooperate with the civil litigation over the state's sprawling welfare fraud case. In court filings last week, the agency accused the Hall of Fame quarterback of withholding text messages, emails, and tax returns during the evidentiary discovery process. MDHS has propounded a total of 27 requests for production to Favre during discovery. Favre has raised multiple objections to every single request. He don't want to share nothing with them. He's hiding out because he's a thief in the night, right? He took that money. His buddies hooked him up and took that $5 million and just sat, and more than that, he paid back for the speaking fees that he never did the speeches. His lawyers responded to the motion the same day, contending that some of the requests are overly broad or covered by attorney-client privilege or similar protections. He's one of nearly 50 defendants in what has been described as the largest case of public fraud in Mississippi history. He's been accused of helping redirect money spent for poor residents, including toward the construction of a volleyball facility at the University of Southern Mississippi, where his daughter played the sport. and the Mississippi Institutions of Higher Learning is in on all that. They had to sign off on that. So and it goes all the way to the top. There's ample evidence at this point that it goes to the top of the state government, and they're continuing to just try to pin that down legally. And it won't surprise me if we hear from outside the state in pretty short order now from something for way up to the top, because these 50 defendants, none of them include the current governor or the previous governor, both of whom there's ample text messages to indicate that they were involved in all this. Next story on the state level, Governor Tate Reeves doubled down on his corruption claims against Democrat candidate Brandon Presley, even amidst his own legal challenges. That's an interesting way to say it. That comes from WJTV. And this is by Richard Lake. A recent ad by the Tate Reeves campaign alleged Presley broke the law when he received campaign funds from an alternative energy company while serving as public service commissioner. On October 9th, Reeves' campaign was sent a cease and desist letter from Silicon Ranch claiming that Reeves' ad is defamatory. The campaign was ordered to stop running the ad. Well, they're still running the ads. The letter insists that Silicon Ranch executives donated to Presley in their individual capacity and that the company is not classified as a public utility under Mississippi law. But Reeves disagreed because, in a statement, in a responding statement, Presley campaign said, quote, Tate Reeves is so desperate to cover up the fact his campaign is funded by criminals in the largest public corruption scandal in state history that he's willing to lie and make up any smear that he can, unquote. So I haven't seen any polls really recently, but I just have the sense that this race is tightening up, this governor's race. I mean, November 7th, we'll be voting. It's just a couple of weeks away. We're getting closer and closer. So we'll get ready to dip out now on the on this first segment from these state stories and move on to the national stories when we come back from a couple of commercials. We'll be right back.
Are you dreaming of becoming an entrepreneur, but you're not sure where or how to start? At Entrepreneurs Academy 101, our online program will guide you step by step on how to start and grow your own business. We offer courses such as how to write a business plan, how to create a budget, and so much more. Our online training program is designed for you to learn at your own pace, and there's no set order to complete this program. Because our academy is online, you have the choice to learn with a group, with friends, or individually. Upon completion of the entire curriculum, you will receive a certificate of achievement to acknowledge that you have completed the training needed to become a successful entrepreneur. So enroll today to design the life that you love. Contact your entrepreneur coach, Brenda Myers, at 601-672-0695 or visit our website at www.entrepreneursacademy101.com for more information.
Hey, have you heard about the Accountable Card? It's more than a card. It's a complete mobile banking service that's accountable to all of us. You'll get a no credit check debit card good anywhere Visa is accepted to make purchases, deposits, even get or transfer cash with an FDIC insured bank account managed from our smartphone app. There's even a pre-approved no interest line of credit if you need emergency cash. So why go to the bank when you can have ours in your pocket? Get accountable. Just download our app today.
And welcome back to the Newsbreak program here on We Believe Digital. We're so happy you're joining us today. We're moving on to the national stories and global stories for this final segment today. From the Associated Press, the vote for a House Speaker, once a formality in Congress, has devolved into another bitter showdown for the gavel. Yesterday, well, let me first say Republicans in majority control, 221 to 212. So they're in control, but they can't get their guy to get enough votes to become the Speaker of the House. The threshold, I believe, is 217, and so that failed yesterday. Hakeem Jeffries had 212 yesterday, and Jim Jordan had 200 yesterday. And so they redid the vote again today, and it just finished a few minutes ago. And once again, Jordan didn't make it. Hakeem Jeffries, the Democrat, had 212. In other words, every single Democrat voted for Hakeem Jeffries. 199 of the 221 voted for Jim Jordan. 5 for McCarthy, who used to be in there before, and then another assortment of other folks. So a total of 426 votes were cast, and a majority didn't get there. So Hakeem Jeffries would be 5 votes away if 5 Republicans moved over and voted with him. He would be the next speaker. It just doesn't seem likely, but sooner or later they're going to want to do something because the business of the House can't be conducted without a speaker. And so they're spending an awful lot of time and taxpayers' money fighting up there, preserving the chaos up there, kind of taking marching orders from the former president. It's hard to, and with the history of this Jim Jordan, it's really shocking when you look at so many of these Republican House members that are willing to vote for this Jim Jordan when he has the history that he has. Apparently not passed one single bill. He's been there for 16 years. He just creates chaos, and was deeply in on this insurrection. Leading the charge against not funding the Ukraine. All kinds of just stuff that he's just a chaos maker. He's a little short guy, and maybe that may have something to do with it. But he want to make everybody think he's a real live man. He roll his shirt sleeves up there, but he's just perpetrating a fraud. He shouldn't be paid for just creating chaos like this. But anyway, that's the guy that they're trying to get in. But there's enough right-minded people that are not allowing that to happen. Although they're casting their votes for other people, that there's no way that can work. So sooner or later, we got to get some progress here so we can move forward. Sad story coming out of Colorado. We shared this one time before, but have more details on it now. Again, coming from the Associated Press. The number now is up from about 115 to at least 189 bodies removed from a Colorado funeral home. Decaying and improperly stored bodies were discovered 2 weeks ago. The remains were found by authorities responding to a report of a abhorrent smell inside the decrepit building at the, quote, Return to Nature Funeral Home, unquote, in the small town of Penrose, Colorado, about 100 miles south of Denver. All the remains that they found so far have been removed from the site. Now, officials said the numbers could change again as the identification process continues. This company, which offered cremations, what they called green burials. So they're burying people in the ground without any embalming fluids at all, as supposed to be a more natural process. But they didn't do what they said they were doing. And I mean, we've heard these stories before. Was it Georgia or South Carolina? I don't know, maybe 10 years ago there was a story of a funeral home not doing their job, taking the money, of course, but not doing the job and getting found out. Another sad story from a Chicago suburb called Bridgeview about the 6-year-old Palestinian boy who authorities allege was stabbed 26 times. A 6-year-old boy stabbed 26 times by his landlord in response to escalating right-wing rhetoric on the Israel-Hamas war, being remembered as a kind child. Just a hate crime, Apparently, this landlord sit and watch the hard right cable programs all day, or listen to hard right radio stuff, and taking out his frustrations. Imagine on a 6-year-old, an innocent child. Crowds of mourners in the heavily Palestinian Chicago suburb of Bridgeview paid respects Monday, and I'm going to try to pronounce the name Wadea Al-Fayoumi, where he was buried. His mother, who was also critically injured in the attack that led to the condemnation from local elected officials to the White House, remains hospitalized. Last night, there was an evening vigil at a community center. Plainfield Mayor John Argadulas said that he had learned that Wadea liked his Lego toys and playing basketball and soccer, like a typical all-American boy, is what he had to say. Max Scherzer has pitched only one time since a miserable night in early September that saw the Houston Astros complete an overwhelming 3-game sweep of his Texas Rangers. When the 3-time Cy Young Award winner returns to the mound tonight after missing just more than a month because of a muscle strain in his shoulder, the Rangers will be trying to take a 3-0 lead over those same Astros in the American League Championship Series. So Game 3 tonight, American League, Rangers up 2-0 over the Astros. And Scherzer on the mound trying to make it 3-0 lead. On the other side, in the National League, Kyle Schwarber hit 2 of Philadelphia's 3 solo home runs off Merrill Kelly last night, and the sweep-swinging Phillies pounded the Arizona Diamondbacks 10-0 for a 2-0 lead in the National League. So their next game is tonight, I believe, also. So they'll have a chance to go up more. So that's it on the national level. We'll have a story for you Friday about a new book coming out by Serena, but I don't have that today. So lots of news, obviously, coming out of the Middle East, and we'll just try to make our way through it here based on numerous recently updated reports by the AP. More than 1 million people have fled their homes in the Gaza Strip ahead of an expected Israeli invasion that seeks to eliminate Hamas's leadership after its deadly incursion. Aid groups warn that Israel ground offensive could hasten a humanitarian crisis. A lot of people concerned about that. The war that began October 7th has become the deadliest of 5 Gaza wars for both sides, with more than 4,000 dead so far. Doctors in Gaza City perform surgery on floors, often without anesthesia, in a desperate bid to save wounded victims of a massive blast that killed civilians sheltering in a hospital yesterday. Video that the Associated Press confirmed was from the hospital showed the ground strewn with torn bodies, blankets, school backpacks. Rage at the hospital carnage spread throughout the Middle East. The leaders of Egypt, Jordan, and Palestine President Mahmoud Abbas called off a planned summit with Biden, and Biden arrived in the region maybe 5 or 6 hours ago. Israel says at least 199 people were taken hostage. during the Hamas attack on October 7th and are being held captive in Gaza. They range from babies to elderly. Most are civilians. Some of their families received frantic phone calls or texts during the attack. Others heard nothing and later saw video evidence that their loved ones were taken. So Israel said Wednesday that it will allow Egypt to deliver limited quantities of humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office said the decision was approved in light of a request from visiting U.S. President Joe Biden. In a statement, it said it will not thwart deliveries of food, water, and medicine as long as the supplies do not get into the hands of Hamas. Biden said Wednesday that Israel has agreed to allow humanitarian assistance to begin flowing into Gaza from Egypt with the understanding it would be subjected to inspections and that it should go to civilians and not militants. The U.S. announced sanctions Wednesday against a group of 10 Hamas members and the Palestinian militant organization's financial network across Gaza, Sudan, Turkey, Algeria, and Qatar as it responds to the surprise attack on Israel that left more than 1,000 people dead or kidnapped. So targeted for sanctions by the Treasury Department's Office of Foreign Assets are members who manage the Hamas investment portfolio, a Qatar-based financial facilitator with close ties to the Iranian regime, a key Hamas commander, and a Gaza-based virtual currency exchange. Iran is Hamas's main supporter. So big things going on, a movement against the leadership of Hamas, seemingly safeguard in place for humanitarian aid, but who knows if it will be sufficient. It's just really, really important to note, and I remember signing a petition this morning that we cannot forget the Palestinian people. The Palestinian people have had their land systemically usurped by the nation state of Israel over the last 75 years, little bits and pieces at a time being annexed, and these are good living people. And they're not perpetrating terrorist attacks like Hamas did. Hamas used some of these Palestinian people as human shields. It's really sad commentary, but let's not lose the bigger picture. That only a tiny fraction of people operating out of the area occupied, where Palestinians reside, we're doing these bad deeds. Tiny fraction. And again, we can see from the report that the funding comes from all kinds of other nation states. So, and a lot of it going back to Iran. So we just want to be clear on that the Palestinian people are not the ones perpetrating all this. It's Hamas and other Islamic Jihad terrorist groups that are perpetrating this. We want to try and keep that in mind. So that's it today for the Newsbreak Show. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you back on Friday at 12 noon. Take good care of yourselves and each other.
Looking for the hottest content in the city of Jackson and surrounding areas? Check out WeBelieveDigital.com. Also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. We Believe Digital Podcast is here for all your podcasting needs.